The question of young Griff's parentage is one of the central questions of A Dance with Dragons. Is young Griff really Aegon, the son of Rhaegar, thought to have died during the sack of King's Landing, or is he someone else entirely, perhaps another Blackfyre, disguised as a Targaryen? We know the male line of the Blackfyres went extinct when Maelys the Monstrous was slain by Sir Barristan Selmy and the Stepstones during the War of the Ninepenny Kings, which rules out Griff from that line. The most commonly accepted answer is that Griff is Illyrio's son, a child he had with Sarah, who is said to have silver and gold hair and big blue eyes. This isn't too far off from Targaryens, but it's not known who Sarah's parents would be, so perhaps that's a result of her father or mother, whichever one wasn't a Blackfyre. Valyrian features aren't uncommon in the Free Cities. She could simply have those features from being of Valyrian descent herself. If young Griff truly is a Blackfyre, we need to trace his lineage back from the one ancestor he certainly must have, Daemon Blackfyre. Daemon had several kids, 7 sons, and at least 2 daughters. His eldest sons, Aegon and Aemon, were both born in the year 184 after the conquest. Daemon II was born 189, and Aegon and Aenys both afterwards, at 190 and 191. Presumably some of the daughters were born in between the twins and the younger Daemon. Now, it's not inconceivable that all of these children were born of Daemon and his wife, Rohan of Tyrosh, but it is a little questionable. That is, at a bare minimum, 9 children in a period of 12 years. Only Aegon and Aemon are twins, as far as we know. While it's possible to get pregnant again less than a month after giving birth, it can be very difficult on your body. Unless some of those daughters are twins to some of those sons, we're looking at a Rohan who is pregnant far more often than not, and who gave birth to only healthy children. And while that's entirely possible, that's not usually how George R. R. Martin writes. We have to look at Daemon's parents, his grandparents, and some thematic parallels to answer the next question. Were all of Daemon's children through Rohan? We'll start with the characters we can compare with Daemon Blackfyre thematically, of which 3 names immediately stand out. He shares a name with Daemon Targaryen, husband of Queen Rhaenyra. He was described as looking remarkably like Aegon the Conqueror, and he was a great knight who was beloved by the realm and whom many wanted to see become king before he died in battle, much like Rhaegar Targaryen. Daemon Targaryen took 3 wives in his time, though he never consummated his first marriage. He had children with both Laena Velaryon and Rhaenyra. While he was still with Rhaenyra, he would spend nights with Masari, and would eventually make a lover of nettles as well. Aegon the Conqueror had 2 wives, his 2 sisters, and he had a child with each of them. Rhaegar also took another, running off with Lyanna Stark while still married to Elia Martell, and there's some evidence they might have had a child as well. Noticing a pattern here? All the characters we're reminded of when we think of Daemon Blackfyre had more than one wife, and had children with more than one partner. And let's not forget Daemon was a child of Aegon the Unworthy. Perhaps Daemon passed off all of his children as Rohans to avoid scandal. So who's Daemon's other wife, or wives? Let's look at his paternal grandmother, Lara Rhaegar. Lara was a Lycene woman, who never learned the common tongue, and kept her religion when she came to King's Landing. 2 of these deities are of note, the 6-breasted cat goddess Pantera, and Yendros of the Twilight, who was male by day and female by night. According to the rumors that were persistent in King's Landing, Lara had magical powers. From Fire and Blood, cats were seen coming and going from her chambers so often that men began to say they were her spies, purring at her in soft voices of all the doings of the Red Keep. It was even said that Lara herself could transform into a cat to prowl the gutters and the rooftops of the city. Darker rumors soon arose. The acolytes of Yandros could supposedly transform themselves from male to female and female to male through the act of love, and whispers went about that her ladyship oft availed herself of this ability at twilight orgies, so she might visit the brothels on the Street of Silk as a man. With the ability to turn into a cat and to switch between male and female, Lara could be the parent of most of the cats in King's Landing. Perhaps, much like dragon riding and skin changing being passed from parent to child, maybe the ability to shapeshift is passed down as well. If so, perhaps those born of Lara's lineage could transform themselves into cats as well. This gives us our look into what could have been the other wife of Daemon Blackfyre, and explains why he was covering her up. The father of some of his children was a cat in King's Landing. This explains many things about young Griff and his conspirators. Varys is connected to him because plenty of cats live in the Red Keep, in some of the darker halls that Varys walks through. Arya is chasing a cat when she first overhears Varys and Illyrio plotting. Young Griff spends time growing up with fishermen, which makes sense, as cats like fish. This also explains why Tyrion beats young Griff at Syvath so often. Cats are bad at chess. So now we can definitively say where young Griff lands in the Blackfyre family tree. He's not from the male line or the female line, but the feline. We also might have an answer as to how Aegon plans to take King's Landing, as there are currently 3 Blackfyres planted with Tommen. And we might have a very good answer of who sent the cat's paw.